Leonard?
Lenart.
Bo will handle it.
Just checking the live stream, make sure we're good. We are good. Go for launch. The stream is healthy. Hi, stream. And hi, VOD viewers.
Hi, stream.
I'm not going to dignify that. See,
All right.
hopefully
Good, bad, or
self-deprecate.
bullshit. Number 148 records in 3, 2.
We're about to knock Prince off the top headline. Good, bad, or bullshit records new episode.
Details at 11.
And another news, Prince died.
Hello and welcome to Good, Bad, or Bullshit, the podcast where three guys have a lively debate about a topic selected at random, where conversation is the foundation of higher thought. My name is Bo Schwartz, and joining me, as always, is the inimitable Michael Hodgins. Michael, hello.
Conversation is the foundation of higher thought. It's like the Socratic dialogues, talking about things. It leads you to new learning.
Yes, and
through ignorance.
Also joining us is the ineffable, I think that's a positive thing, because I want to say positive thing about this man. He is positivity personified. Just ask him about it, and he'll tell you all about it. It's Mr. Crofton Steers. Crofton, hello again. We meet.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Rest in peace to see celebrities Prince in China.
Yeah, they're no longer with us. So if you care, if they touched your lives in some way, if the sweet melodies of Prince have moved you, or the sweet wrestling moves of China stirred your soul, today's a sad day for you.
It's true.
I only recently realized how awesome a guitarist Prince was when I watched some kind of like there's this YouTube video of what is it? George Harrison being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they're doing "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and I watched it, I'm like, this is pretty sweet. And then at the end, Prince is like, man, that guy can rip up a guitar. And I don't know what I thought about Prince because I never listened to much Prince, but the man had some talent for sure.
It's true. I was listening to that song today, actually.
It's a good version,
Yeah, I just think that it's one of the. I was telling Bo earlier, the thing about the Prince story for me, and not one of the three of us, I think, are big Prince fans, is that I don't listen to a bunch of Prince, and as Bo said, if they haven't touched you personally, like with their music or whatever, then you're less likely to be as invested. Like when David Bowie or even Lemmy from Motorhead died earlier this year, I was like, oh yeah, but Prince, I don't know, like. He never, aside from that Chappelle Show skit, never really affected my life in too major a way. Maybe I should get into Prince music. I don't know.
Well, it's always sad to hear when anybody passes away. Like, clearly the news is not good.
Especially young. He was pretty young. Yeah. And he looked younger than he was even.
Yeah, and I'm sure China looked older than she was.
She probably looked older.
Well, she pretty much looked like
too, right?
artificial person with all the plastic surgery and stuff like that she had. So
it
depends. You could argue that's younger, or you could argue that's older.
It's never right.
But she died at 46, and that's another wrestler from the 90s.
Same as Rob Ford, R.I.P. 46. Yeah. He also looked older than 46.
Yeah,
definitely. There's a lot of people that have died in 2016 so far. A lot of people. And I mean celebrities.
And believe it or not, some of them aren't celebrities.
No, but most of them are.
You don't make a news story.
Crofton has a weird sense of proportionality here. But I'm pretty sure it's a bit. So we have that sort of sad little bit that we talked about. I want to take a right turn into some positive news real quickly. And this really doesn't counterbalance the bad news by any stretch. But we have our second Patreon. Or we have another master. As artists, there is another person donating so that we can make things happen. I
think it's patron.
It's Patron, but the site's Patreon.
When you use the term master, it's like, oh, we're...
Well, no, I'm being jokey, but yeah.
Patron is a good term.
So, it's not only my mom funding our show, it's also now this gentleman in Sweden by the name of Lennart. So, Lennart, thank you very much for your support. And if you'd like to join Lennart in supporting the show, we'd really appreciate it. You can go to patreon.com/goodbadbull to do so.
Bo, before you continue, I just want to read because Leonard sent me this email. He said that his support comes with certain conditions.
Oh, really?
So it was not. It's not. I didn't know you could do this on Patreon, but apparently you can set conditions for the support. So we're gonna have to discuss if his investment is worth the conditions. First of all, it says we're to replace Bo. That was number one, and it was underlined. And then he had a couple of suggestions. Number one was Snoop Dogg. I don't know that we can do that.
Well, Snoop Dogg was on the most recent season of Trailer Park Boys, so if he's willing to be on that trashy show, then he'll probably do our podcast.
Hey, number two was Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys. So
oh wow,
maybe he just likes Trailer Park Boys.
Jesus
anyway,
Murphy.
We can go over his recommendations later. We'll have a business meeting, discuss
I actually
if
kind
this
of
is
like
the right
this.
direction to take the show.
If we can get Snoop Dogg or Bubbles in to replace me, then I'll just sit back on the dials
I feel like
and do the production.
either of those two could join the list of dead celebrities in the near future. I feel like they both have the potential.
What? Not Bubbles? Oh man.
Wow, look at his living conditions.
Mike Smith is a Canadian treasure, man.
Faux shizzle.
All right, so enough of that. We have more later from Leonard, but I think it's time, the gentlemen, boys, dastardly, dashing dudes. Yeah, I'm not at a peak performance here. I'm like the engine on the car commercial that's like sputtering. But we are going to pick a topic at random, and Mike's going to engage the device in...
I will.
In engineering style. Oh man. Okay. Are you ready to do this, dude?
Mike, please save us.
Let's do it.
Save the show, Mike. You're the show savior, and Crofton carries the show.
Just pull the crank, please. It's a mercy killing.
Whatever. I'm not doing that bad.
Oh. The topic today seems a bit apropos. Maybe is related to the Prince preamble. It's pop music.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I would point out again to the listeners, because this is one of those times it does seem a little too apropos. You can
say that if you want to believe, Crofton, that I rigged the machine.
No, I don't.
Or even worse,
that.
he probably rigged Prince's death so we could do this episode.
I definitely do not believe that, because if I did believe it, I would assume that everything that you pull out ends with ophraphy or capitalism or calligraphy or whatever. Like, that would be a Mike Hodgins topic. Pop music, that's more of a Bo Schwartz topic, I think. So maybe Bo wants to lead us off in discussions of.
I've already got an angle on this that is actually picking at the definition of pop music. That we may segue into for 10 minutes. But pop music, I've always considered, and I could be incorrect, the pop meaning popular music, in that it is a genre, but it's not really a genre. Does that make sense? Like, country's a genre. It has distinct sounds that you attribute to it.
But country
music can be pop music, right?
Can?
Yes.
Well, they often talk about country musicians like Shania Twain and Taylor Swift about how they're becoming pop, and they're not country. And they're not country anymore.
Their kinds of music are not like pure country. Like, you look at Taylor Swift, and she's like drifts. And again, I don't think I have ever listened to a Taylor Swift song that I'm aware of. But from the media stuff I see, it seems like she's just like, hey, I'm just going to become a pop icon because there's more money than just being in the niche of country music.
Right, which is like, it's that weird thing, because there's pop rock, like Nickelback. Anybody? Hello.
Yeah, pop, but pop rock's a bit of a subject. Like, when you think of Michael Jackson, the king of pop, self-anointed.
Because he's like the most popular,
Madonna,
right?
It's
not because of his sound.
But the music he was like. When I think pop music, it's like, think of your kind of like up to date. It's like top 40 kind of radio.
Which is all rap and R&B right now for the most part.
Yeah, it is a lot of it.
A lot of it is too.
Yeah, and a lot of it is that, like Drake and things like that. Like, that's pop music, and yeah.
It's funny though. I find I like to get on Bo's bandwagon here a bit about the definition. It is interesting because, like, when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, all the top 40 was very like distinct. Like, you knew something was top 40 when you heard it. You're like, Seal, Kiss from a Rose from the Batman Forever soundtrack. Boom, top 40, you know?
Kiss from a rose in the me.
Boys to Men, top 40, you know?
At the end of the
all that
road.
Stuff. But
That's
now there's stuff like, you know, and then there's still that stuff today with Justin Bieber and this sort of thing. But there's also, like, as Bo said, you know, Drake is first and foremost a rapper. He's rap, but it's like popular rap, and it's on the
rap.
It's on the top. Yeah, but I know what you're saying, but it's like
I hate Drake. Incidentally,
there's
Drake's
Drake.
all right, man. Drake's all right.
You used to call me on my cell phone. I'm like, shut up, Drake.
Look, but Mike gets out of control. We need to stop him here for a second. And I don't want it to be. Remember, I mentioned the other day on this show the whole Loki's gamble sort of thing, where gambit or whatever. The idea where you get so caught up in the discussion of a definition of a topic that you're not able to evaluate the topic.
Is that what that's called? Loki's gambit?
Yeah, we did talked about this. I brought it up on another.
I know we did. I just don't remember it being
I thought
called
it was something
Loki's
about that
Gambit.
True Scotsman thing.
Yeah, I thought.
No,
yeah,
I was looking
the dishonest
that up
Scotsman.
when no, it's not the Scotsman.
Well, clearly, we didn't get the bit you were talking.
Look, bottom line is Loki had a bet. He was to be beheaded, and he said you made the analogy to Macbeth, the pound of flesh thing. He's like,
that's
Othello. Merchant of Venice, whatever.
Shyla, oh my God, guys, we're all over the place.
You cut off the head, but no neck. So you can take my head, but not my neck. So then it's a discussion about where's the head end and the neck begin and all that sort of stuff. So with pop, so you get caught up on a definition, and in the end, he walks away scot-free. I'm saying that instead of spending 2 hours defining what pop music is, I think we generally have a sense of what pop music is, and we should just roll with that.
I think you know what, that is a very that's a very bold what's the word for that? You know, it's a very positive
spark.
Not spark, but like you
Smart.
know, in
intelligence.
No, but in diplomacy, you put forward not a proposition, but a motion.
Great idea.
It's a good motion.
I'm intelligent.
Sure, you told us about the Flying Scotsman and
Othello's
Gamble. Othello's Gamble.
If we're gonna just go and be like, okay, we all know what pop music is, but like, you know, enough to get back into discussion of
of pop music,
the definition of it. But clearly, it's also something that it does change with time, right? Like, there's pop music is something which it's very of the present, right? Like, because if you look at like pop music from the '90s is now like kind of fading into classic rock, kind of rock sort of. It's
top 40. Like I have all these Spotify lists, and it's like top 1990s top 40.
Right, but if you see like 90s, like I think like Hootie and the Blowfish and stuff like that, it's like that stuff wouldn't be top 40 now, is what I'm saying. And if you were to
go classic rock, it's classic pop.
Well, then go back and say, okay, what's top 40 in the 1960s? It's like the Beatles. That's classic rock now. But
some argue that they're the first boy band and that they're pop.
There you go. That's all I'm saying. Is that it changes over time, and it's like what is pop music in one decade is not pop music in another.
It does change over time, but I think that it's fairly consistent in that it's full of catchy what do you call those choruses and.
Hooks.
You know,
got a sweet hook.
Sweet hook. Thank you, Bo.
Yeah.
If it has a sweet hook, there's a good chance that it's pop music.
The other thing. Okay, hang on. Because I kind of want to just veer a little bit and sort of bring another thing that I thought of as part of this discussion, because there's pop music as an institution, but like, would you guys not say Metallica is pretty popular?
No, well, they're popular, but they're not pop.
They're pretty popular. Like everyone in our generation knows who Metallica is.
Yeah, maybe in the 90s.
And wait. But would you consider them pop music?
No.
Okay.
I just said that.
But they are popular. I think they are popular.
Yeah, AC/DC's popular.
Right. So that this idea that pop music is not actually popular, it's an like a propaganda institution to sell music.
It is for sure. Because
that's sort
of
like where I'm going with this.
There's certain
not a propaganda institute. It's just another type of music.
No, but I think what he means is right in the sense that it's like if you become a popular, I don't know, like white metal band and you become somehow very popular, you're never going to still make it on radio top
Yeah,
40.
Casey Kasem with the top
It's
something.
That's just
Yeah.
not going to happen. It's too there are sometimes niche bands or bands of a particular genre which then break through and enjoy widespread appeal, but that doesn't make them part of the zeitgeist, which is pop music. And I think it really is one of those zeitgeist things. It's what's in now. And if you're the type of music that's in that flow at the moment, then you're going to be on top 40, blah blah blah. And even if you might get popular, you doesn't make you part of that thing. And I think Bo touched on a little bit that not quite propaganda, but it is studio driven. And like, people
Curated.
often talk about how there's this bullshit thing where it's like the studios and the radio stations, they kind of collude and they get these radio plays. So like when something like some Drake song comes out, it gets like, 2, 3 plays per hour on all the top 40 stations all around. There's no way it can't get stuck in everyone's brain who's out there downloading that stuff. And that some people say like that's the bullshit propaganda of it, right? That it's not just, oh, this is naturally good stuff. It's just like new release. This is the single we're putting out there. Play it constantly around the clock on the radio. Get stuck in everyone's brain, and it's been like that for decades.
Yeah.
And some music is never going to get that airtime because it's not the right flavor of pop from the time.
Or like arguably the new Star Wars soundtrack is new music released this year, but that'll never be on a pop station. And unless there was some crazy marketable way for them to drive those sales, I think that happened with pop music.
Well, they do often on movies. They'll have like a soundtrack song performed by a famous artist, such as Aerosmith. I don't want to miss a thing from the 2000 film Armageddon with
That's
Bruce
true.
Willis.
Yeah.
That will,
And I don't
crack.
want to miss a thing.
That will crack the pop charts. No,
Those things went well together because Armageddon is one of the shittiest movies I can think of, and Aerosmith one of the shittiest bands.
Oh, no way. What about Living on the Edge, man? Living on the Edge.
Or perhaps what the music that the music that perfectly describes the moment where you fall in love in an elevator. We can all relate to experience like that.
Or a man or a dude that looks like a lady.
Huh? Yeah, that's interesting.
Now the thing is, there are these movies that propagate the music, and the more I think about it, the more you're right, Mike. It is a machine, and that machine has changed because Johnny Cash, who is somebody that you would not necessarily associate with pop music, was it like he was? I think it was Sun Records or Sunshine Records or whatever. They did the exact same thing. That's partially to why he became popular. So I mean, it is part of this system that's becoming increasingly archaic now that we have like internet access to all types of music and all types at all types of times. But like, I look at this sort of, they talk every summer about what's the song of the summer. This is this thing that comes up. People are like, what is the song of the summer this year? Oh my God, and I always make fun of that. I'm like who's deciding what it generally it's what's number one on the pop chart for like multiple months during the summertime or near the most ubiquitous song, right? And I realize now when I look back to my youth and all this sort of stuff, I'm like, I look back at these songs that were clearly products, like Mike says, in a nostalgic and favorable way. But I'll shit on new music. I'll be like, oh yeah, this new stuff is crappy. But like, probably there's tons of people that are super enjoying it right now. They'll look back on it, in 10 years and be like, oh, remember when Bieber released that Love Yourself song? It was so good. Like I feel like we're older and cynical now, and that speaks sort of to our age. And so we moved away from this type of music. But when we think back to all those old hits that played on the radio, we're like, oh man, that was a good song. People were probably like, those songs are horrible back then, adults.
And that goes back to the whole thing, which I really think is true about pop music, is that it's of like, might have like a 10-year time frame. Like people who are of a generation older always think their music was better than the current music. Same is true of us. Same is true of probably our parents or whatever. Like Elvis Presley's pop music for sure, and now that's like something completely different. But I always do feel like, and there's always, even if when it's of the now, there's always the people who like pop music. So there are people like I would consider my brother one of those types. Every time I go for a ride in his car or whatever, it's always top 40 playing, and has been such his whole life. He's always just like he's into pop music, and I'm the complete opposite. I've never been into pop music. Um, and there's some people that'll be into like say like different kinds of indie music or older music or whatever who feel kind of like they're like outsiders is not the right word, but that there's pop music and that's like the shiny marketed BS, and they're like, but I like the good stuff. Whether or not that's true, it may not be true at all, but I still think you always have that kind of breakdown. There's the people who are in with the pop and the people who are out with the pop, and probably each are like think like, yeah, we know what's right. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter. You like what you like, but I do think it does break down sort of like that. Like pop haters and pop lovers. I'm a pop hater. I'll say it. I like old music.
I had a funny interaction at work today because, okay, and here's the thing that pop radio stations do. There's a local station in Ottawa called 89.9. You guys heard of this, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Super.
So here's what they're doing. Here's the contest they're having right now. Basically, every hour you have to listen to the radio station, and they're going to add money to a pot. So let's say it's $7,000. Now they're going to add $15, so it's $7,015. If that happens, you don't call in. But if 2 hours in a row they have the same number, you're supposed to call in, and the 89th caller wins the pot. And this pot has moved from $4,000 to $12,000 over the past 2 weeks. Okay, they have to, and I have a coworker who is religiously listening to this so she can be the 89th caller onto this thing.
All radio stations do that.
I know,
that has nothing to do with pop, though.
But no. Because the story is, my reaction was, she's like, oh yeah, I'm going to call in, I'm going to do this. I'm like, yeah, the only price you have to pay for maybe winning is listening to that trash over and over. And I kind of let myself like really.
Well, that's all right. So you guys are showing your biases, which is
sure, yeah.
No, but Mike is saying that he doesn't like pop. He just said it, and Bo is also saying that. So in terms of that musical genre, like we did rap on this show before, and I admitted straight up, I don't like rap. So I mean, what are you going to do, right? That comes into play when you're going to deliver your verdicts for sure. The thing is, getting back to the music changing with the times thing, because I think that's astute, and I wonder too, because like Mike's very curmudgeon-y, we all know that, the listeners know that. He generally has always been shitting on popular music for as long as I know him, but then like I wonder, like if we talk about some of the songs that he shat on in the 90s, if he, if now he looks back on them sort of nostalgically and was like, oh, maybe that was a good song or whatever. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, Mike, maybe you want to answer that.
Well, no, but I would say that like pop has like a lot of the things I think of as pop from the 90s probably weren't pop. Like you mentioned a few things from like, oh yeah, for sure that was pop from the 90s, like Boyz II Men. And I don't know, one or two was Seal, right? And you'd be like, oh, I was like, okay, yeah, I do remember those things, and I wasn't necessarily into that stuff. But then I mentioned like Hootie and the Blowfish, and I think even like Nirvana.
Nirvana's not pop.
Not pop, but it had popular appeal in the 90s and had radio play.
I have a good segue for that, if you will let me.
But I wanted to come back to Bo's point about the.
He will not let you.
Not that you were
not going to let me. No, obviously.
Well, no, but I wanted to respond because not that you were meaning to be dismissive of what Bo was saying about the radio, but I have, even though I don't like pop music, I have listened to a lot of. I'm not even sure if it was Hot 89.9 because it was definitely like a decade ago, but the equivalent at the time for months and months because I had coworkers who played it all day.
Probably Energy 1200. Mike's old.
I do remember that station, but it wasn't that station. It was after that. But the thing is that I was gonna make the joke because like I'm not sure how Bo's structured, but I'd be like, dude, like we add $15 to the pot every time we play a Rihanna song, and it's like 8 times an hour or something. It was like, oh man, this thing going off the hook. Because the thing is, or like call in when you hear the next Drake play. And they have some of these things like that, and I would listen to these things and be like, I can't believe they're playing this song again. And the thing is that it is effective because though I said I hate pop music, and I don't remember at the time, God, I cannot even remember the guy. He was kind of like a white dude who looked or was Jamaican. Oh, you must know who this guy is.
All radio stations.
Snow.
This is all radio stations.
No, not Snow. No. Before you go on, it wasn't Snow. He was much longer. It was like 2007 or something like that.
Sorry, God, a white guy who did. Like,
he's actually Jamaican and raps, and he.
You're not talking about Weed Man, are you?
No, it's not. Right. Anyways, whatever. He was way more poppy than that. Doesn't matter. Anyways, there's a couple
Shaggy?
of these.
Sean something.
Shaggy.
No, Sean. Yeah.
Sean Paul. Oh, Sean Paul. Doon,
Yeah.
doon, doon.
Yes.
We're gonna get the dance hall or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that
Sean
guy had
Paul,
some
man.
top
Is he
40
like
stuff.
Canadian too, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not even sure. But the point is, and he got radio play like constantly at the time, and a few of his songs were like massively stuck in my head. It was really effective. So like if you know whatever mechanism you're using to drive people to your radio station, but some of the pop music radio stations are worse in the sense that their cycle of songs is so much shorter because they're on the pop bandwagon. So they're like for like a month or two, you're going to be hearing a lot of songs repeat a lot.
Right.
And I think that's what it's all
But if
about.
you listen to a new rock station or a new country station or whatever, they all do that because they all have new songs that are
Right, but
repeated.
there are a lot of radio stations you might listen to like CBC or older rock stations. Well, you shake your head, but I mean there's top 40 radio stations and there's
That's
a
a
lot of
talk. You're talking about you're comparing it to talk
no
radio stations.
no. There's have you ever listened to CBC Radio 2? It's all music all the time.
Oh no, yeah,
No,
that's
it's
Radio 3.
Yeah,
It's
like
that's you're talking about a publicly funded thing that doesn't have to generate money.
exactly. That's my point. Pop music is about generating money and making you listen to things. And when
Everything is about generating money.
Right.
We live.
but that's what I think that's the point. That's what pop music is about like drilling a song into your brain so
All
that
music is like that. Then
No,
not
it's
just
No.
pop.
but if
No.
you listen to a
All
wider
your examples are
Profit-
could be used for any radio
if you listen
station
to-
except for publicly funded ones.
no or songs like
or a
like-
classic rock station.
yeah, right, or
That's-
older
that's-
Or
that's
much
it.
music back
Or-
before they did TV shows.
or
and no
blues
TV.
or blues radio or classical radio. There's all kinds of music radio that's not top 40.
Any radio station that is about new music, be it new country, new rock, new pop, new whatever.
Okay, we can't play too much of that because copyright
It's true.
issues.
That
Did
guy.
anybody realize I was talking at that point?
Yeah, but we were arguing. I mean, I think we're kind of in some ways saying the same thing.
Pretty frustrating.
I just feel like you're not wrong. I agree.
I'm just saying the point makes no sense to harp on these radio contests or whatever. When that's done for all different types, you need to focus on the music type, which is popular music, right? Okay. Let's go back to my awesome segue for Nirvana that I was going to do back then, way back. So for the longest time, the only way that they could judge music, the popularity of music, was through Billboard charts, Nielsen ratings, all this sort of thing. That's how you knew what was popular, what was listened to. That's how you did it. You couldn't determine how many people were listening to the Beatles or how many people were listening to other types of music. Now we're in the digital age, and people can pull those numbers, specifically from Spotify, which is the most widely used streaming site. And there's a guy who has done that for Polygraph magazine, and it's called The Most Timeless Songs of All Time. And he uses Spotify to measure the popularity of older music. And his big revelation was that the song "No Diggity" by Blackstreet is in fact a timeless song based on the sheer amount of Spotify play counts. So the segue with Nirvana is, if you look at the 1990s and the metrics on his list, the Nirvana "Smells Like Teen Spirit" is far and away the most played song on Spotify. Like just crazily high, tens of thousands higher than the second one on the list. And then the second one on the list is Goo Goo Dolls' "Iris," which is a pop song. I remember really being into it when it came out in 1998. And then there's a couple of like rock songs, Oasis, Wonderwall, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Under the Bridge. And then there's Blackstreet with "No Diggity" and a bunch of Whitney Houston and other sort of pop songs. So people are going back in time years afterwards and listening to these songs they're choosing to. So at one point, are these songs not like as valuable or as timeless as any other song just because they may have been created in a lab? If they struck a chord with people that years and years down the road that they're going back and digging up and enjoying these songs, does that not give them like an intrinsic value as in terms of music, whereas you can have all sorts of niche music that nobody listens to, still valuable in its own way. But just because we don't personally maybe listen to pop or enjoy it, the fact that people are listening to it decades later and enjoying it, doesn't that
Yeah.
mean that it's valuable in
Which
some way?
it's hard to have this conversation without actually just scoping into the bigger commercial art versus art, right? Like
Well,
the whole thing about a manufactured, whether it's pop music or film or whatever entertainment, is that there are artisans and creators who pour their soul into the work that they do, but ultimately it's driven by industry. Whereas you look at people who are composing music for themselves and outside of that realm, it's very different. And I would say a lot of that music that you just named are musically very simple. Like they're not complex pieces of music. They're not putting forward any unique tapestries. It's a lot of
Fair
it the
enough.
same chord progression. Is individuals who as musicians, not as individuals, who understand the underpinnings of what's there. It really is a very simplistic approach to recycling music, which you'll hear a lot of musicians say, like, there's nothing original in pop music or rock music or R&B that all didn't develop under the blues during slavery, which is where that sort of aesthetic comes from. And we understand it as popular music, but really it's a very narrow slice of what music actually is as a creative force.
well,
And we
I
just
think
happen to enjoy it. It's easily accessible to enjoy. It's not like listening to Bach and having to sit there and appreciate what's going on. You don't have to do that with, I like the way you work it. No diggity. I got to bag it up,
I
bag
think
it up now.
another you just made me think of and
I got
yes,
to
it is a
bag it up,
catchy
Mike.
song.
You going to help me bag it up?
Well, I was going to use this example. I think it's part of maybe why like pop music. It's kind of to some extent it's like process, right? And Bowie talked a little bit about like maybe you might think of like his artistic integrity. So there was like a little bit of a scandal. I don't know how long ago this was. Not that long ago, a couple years or a year, couple. Anyways, where Beck won like best album at the Grammys. And I think generally you wouldn't consider Beck pop music. He's a little bit experimental, a little bit out there. Anyways, he wins it, and then what was it like? What's the guy? Kanye West, who's like pop guy, was like
Who's
Beyonce.
rap
He's like Beyonce should have won this, and Beyonce very pop music.
pop?
Yeah, very pop. And he
Both
was
very talented, too.
whatever. Okay,
Both.
but the point being, again, I'm coming back to process. So, and I had seen these things that were like memes, and obviously, a lot of people that like to crap on Beyonce. Clearly, she has appeal. I'm not gonna crap on her if lots of people like her, whatever. But again, coming to process and about pop music, and some people they put together this list. They're like, okay, Beck writes all his own songs, plays 16 instruments, recorded all the instruments on that track, all him, and he produced it himself, did all the mixing. Okay, this guy is like an artist. Like Beyonce doesn't write her own song, doesn't play any instrument, has a team of producers. She just sings. She's good at it, but that's
And her songs are easier to listen to. Honestly, I tried listening to that Beck album and I was like, this is not very
That's
good.
valid.
Or,
That's totally
I didn't enjoy it. And then I was like, who, Beyonce? I'm like,
right.
Totally valid.
But again,
Yeah.
that comes back to like pop music is meant to appeal to the masses as well. And something like Beck is maybe a little bit harder to digest. But again, that comes back to process.
So is there something wrong with appealing to the masses?
No, there isn't. But again, I'm just making a point about pop music where it's like process. Process is like you get in, you have some kind of talent, might be singing and dancing, whatever. You get in with the record company. They're like, here's some good producers, man. We're gonna get you some hits, and you got good songwriters working for you. They do produce hits. It's a team approach. And someone is the figurehead of that team, and they get a lot of the cred. And if and they choose and pick the things that are going to go into their records, and then they make it. And other people are like the craftsman music, the artisan, the true artist music, and that is generally not how you think of pop. And I think people who like to crap on pop, probably myself included, that would be a bone I'd have to pick about it. To
Probably.
Be like overly formulaic, like reliance on a lot of other people doing the legwork for you, like writing songs, like and making music and actually playing instruments. And that's like an easy thing to pick apart at someone like Beyonce. Is like, can she make music like on her own? She can sing very well,
I'm sure
but
she
is
can
anyone going to buy a
ad-lib.
record of all a cappella? Like clearly she's talented, but in a very different way than someone like Beck is talented. And neither one, again, neither one's better or worse. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying pop has that process, and there's things that are more on the fringes which have a very different process. Some people think it's more authentic and it might be more to their taste. That's a subjective matter, neither good
Yeah.
nor bad. But pop, anyways, that
Although,
was my point.
although, and I want to swing my pendulum, the gross. I want to swing my pendulum back to what Crofton was attempting to say. Well, not attempting to say, but what I'm attempting to say in support of Crofton's point of view on the matter that well written or not well written, this art that we have is meant to be shared, and these are the modes of transmission for the most sharing, so they become cultural touchstones that we can all share. When I'm like, dude, I love the new Radiohead album, you guys are like, I don't care. But if I'm like, oh man, that sweet Shauna Paul song, and you guys heard it on the radio, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a funny song. Or Drake, like, even though we all say we hate Drake, we all know who he is and we all know the song that we're talking about, and it's a thing that we connect and bond over as community. And I think what Crofton's saying is that has value. And so why do we have to be hipsters and be like, no, only stuff you've never heard of is only good, but stuff that is popular has plenty of merit. And I tend to agree with the fact that the stuff that I can share with people has more value than the stuff I can't in some respects.
Actually, that is what normally when Bo recaps what I said, I'm like, Bo, that's not what I meant, but that is it. That is exactly what I meant.
I think it's a good point. I think we passed over it too quickly.
Just the for your information, Bo, the fourth most listened to song in the 1990s is "Creep" by Radiohead on Spotify. So your example is no good. The thing I was going to say, now that Bo has sort of said something positive about pop, now I can shit on it.
Okay.
I'm thinking, like, going to what makes it kind of a manufactured product. I always think back to, and this is showing my age here, Milli Vanilli. I'm not sure if you are familiar. I was really into Milli Vanilli as a kid, and
I feel so badly
will
for
admit
you.
Dance moves.
Blame it on the rain. And like,
Yeah.
there was
Yeah, I
these,
get that
so
part.
there was the background to this, to all you young kids, is there's these two like super good looking dudes with dreads and stuff like that, super
How good
hot,
looking, Crofton?
super good looking, dancing often topless in the rain, in the music videos.
And
Blame
you liked
it
this.
on the rain. And then they won, I think, the Grammy that year for Best New Artist, if I recall. And then they performed, I don't know where they performed, it was on the Grammys or something, and it became clear that they were lip syncing. And the thing is also, like, people had started to notice that their talking voices were quite a bit different than their singing voices. So they started to be caught lip syncing. And nowadays you hear this celebrities all the time. They will lip sync. If you go to a Madonna show or whatever, she pretty much comes out and says it because she's doing all this choreography and dancing, and you're going for maybe other reasons. Um, but in the case of Milli Vanilli, it was actually different people who were singing. Like these, I think he was like this fat dude who was the main singer, and he was just like sitting in a chair being like, blame it on the rain. And meanwhile, these guys were just a front. And to me, that's a clear example of the transparent superficiality associated with pop music. Because really, they're just looking to put out a product, and you know what? The face of the product isn't attractive enough, so we're just gonna, do it. Like, let's face it, pretty much every pop singer that male or female, is some degree of hot. Okay, like they're and that's not coincidental. It's like, it's not that ugly people are not musically talented. It's just that they are not the ones that are selected. And now they're more transparent than ever with these like reality shows like American Idol or whatever. All of these shows, like, where people are getting screened out left and right. And it's really like
Jennifer Hudson is an example of someone with a different type of body shape, but who's always advertising for weight loss stuff like all the time.
She didn't win her season of American Idol.
No, but she won she became the celebrity.
Yeah, exactly.
Jennifer Hudson. She's
won an Oscar.
Fabulous singer, pop musician.
Yeah,
amazing.
And she won an Oscar.
Adele is a little bit, she's a little.
Yeah,
bit,
okay, no, but she's
an exception. I agree with your point.
But not just an exception, like an insane vocal talent. Like, I think once you hit that level, like Susan Boyle, for instance, that older lady.
I was going to bring her up as this kind of like, and you still see these things on where someone's like, "Oh my God, check out this person! Somehow she's amazingly talented and yet not attractive. How is this possible?" And you're
Yeah.
just because
Oh my god, I
you live
need
in
to
a fucking
isolate
bubble
that.
of pop
That is
culture, and it's like it's a good point you're making.
Because if you look at other genres of music, and maybe like new country is not a good example, but anything else, like if you look at the classic rockers or a lot of these people who are famous, they're generally not super good looking, and there isn't that exception. A lot of people will say that not me. Some people will say that the lead singer of Nickelback is attractive. I don't think that he is. I just think that the barrier for entry in the attractiveness circle when you're in rock is much lower than when it's in pop. You're like, "Oh, that guy's wearing skinny jeans and
oh, the
he
Aerosmith
plays."
guy.
Yeah, like the Aerosmith guy, like Steven Tyler or whatever. Like, but that's going back. But like, pop is always like Elvis, even all the Beatles, when they were more pop. Like they're all good-looking guys. When the Monkees were manufactured to replicate their success, I mean, like they are not ugly gentlemen. So it's just like, I mean, they're not as good-looking as the Milli Vanilli guys, obviously, but
Nobody
they
is.
were they were as good looking for the time, right? So I just anyway that for me is just an example I wanted to use to sort of harp on the superficiality, because as much as I want to make the points about the lasting appeal of the music and the value of appealing to the masses, just because it doesn't appeal to you personally or whatever, it's hard to get away from that shit. It really is.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. I think we can go on and on about pop music, but I think we're getting close to the time where we got to wrap up for verdicts. Does anyone have any final thoughts that they want to share that they didn't get out in the course during the course of our normal discourse? Anything gnawing at anyone? Any songs anyone wants to sing? Like I'm a lyrical gangster, word 'em up. I'm breaking down the barrier, word 'em up.
Is that Here
Excuse
Comes
me,
the
Mr.
Hot
Officer.
Stepper?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's
we do not die.
I Need Kamosi
Oh,
or
that's
was
how
just-
it starts. No, I'm
I
a
was
lyrical
just thinking
gangster.
of
All
as
right.
a total contrast. Do you guys know who Dr. John is?
You mean Lil Jon?
No, Dr. John. He's from like I don't know the 70s, and not an attractive fellow,
Oh.
but very unique, silent, and very talented.
By the way, one great thing
Wait,
to
was
cut.
he the scat man, John? No.
Dr. John. He was in the last waltz.
No. I do.
He just is like this kind of fat guy with a coarse voice, but super talented. And you're just like, he would not be a pop like just talented guy.
Actually, one thing I want to mention before we go to verdicts, just something we didn't talk about too much.
Please don't steal mine. Please don't steal mine.
What?
Go, 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 go. Just don't be.
Is one-hit wonders. And we don't. That's something that seems fairly exclusive to the pop realm, or more exclusive to the pop realm. The idea that somebody comes up and so I'm, my mom's from New Zealand, and when I went backpacking in New Zealand, they still talk about this guy who had this song from the '90s, "How Bizarre." Do you know that song?
Oh,
How bizarre.
How
Na, na, na,
bizarre.
It's a good song.
How bizarre. How bizarre. And anyway, he was like, I guess that song just bonkers internationally. He was like a flavor of the month or whatever, But in New Zealand, like he's treated like royalty because their music. First of all, they have a small population, but that he breaks out into the mainstream just for this one song, it was a huge deal. But it made me think about all these guys. Like he benefited from coming from a place where it's small population. But in the States, like, or in Canada, there's tons of people that just like have the one hit wonder, and I think that shows the superficiality again of pop music.
I think that's almost a bit different. Remember, Right Said Fred, incidentally.
Oh, we've sang that song
Yeah.
on the show
That was kind of-
before.
I do think though that maybe the difference. I think that's a bit different one-hit wonders. I think legitimately some people have, or some artists have, one awesome song in them, and it's like they make music. A lot of stuff they do is bland, and then for some reason or other they stumble on something that is just like, wow, this is an awesome song, and then they try to do it again and they just can't, and they can't get it back. I think that's different than pop music, because I think so often pop music is like you have these kind of like people like Beyonce and whatever who are just like they are just not to say they're not deserving of it, but like propped up by the industry. They're like the royalty of the industry. They can do no wrong, and they will be around for a long time. And a lot of pop is like that. I mean, often people will fall out of favor, but they often have a run of quite a few years where it's just like, okay, they got a few albums, they're coming out. One hit wonders are often like sometimes just dorky people that come out with something, it becomes a big hit, and that's it, and then they're gone. It's I think a bit different, but I mean
No,
maybe that's the point.
I just think it's more prevalent in pop than it is in
Yeah,
other genres of music.
like
Yeah,
Like,
if
I
you're
can see that because they're trying someone out and then they do
yeah,
well
this
and then they
doesn't
don't
work.
really follow up. Anyways,
We can't do anything with this person or whatever. I don't know.
right.
Like, you're right that some people are just like created by a company, by what a baby face and some of these backstage producers, and then there's other people that actually make a pop song and become famous, and either they're going to survive in the industry or they're going to just get crushed. And often, probably to get recruited by one of these guys, they either have to fit a mold or they have to have a couple of hits or something. So anyway,
okay, and I'll just reiterate that I hate Drake, and now I'm ready for verdicts.
All right. Let's roll into verdicts, you guys. Let's just do it. Let's go. Order in the court. I'm going to jump in first. I want to be the first in. I want to be number 1 on the top charts. All right. Not much to say other than what I was going to say that you didn't steal was this. One great treasure we have, thanks to pop music, is Weird Al Yankovic. Without pop music, there are no pop parodies, and there's no Weird Al, and Weird Al is amazing. Also, we spent a lot of time talking about the pop music that affects us now and recently, but we didn't spend a lot of time thinking about great songs. Like, I'm sure they were top hits, the Top Gun soundtrack, the Danger Zone, and also
Kenny
Phil Collins, Rod Stewart. Like, some of those 80 artists were actually pretty amazing. Even old Madonna, when you listen to it now, I actually kind of start to dig it now that enough time has elapsed. And it's more to Crofton's point, like, is it just good then? Can't it be good later? So there's a lot of great stuff. So all I'm going to say is I can feel my verdict coming in the air tonight. Oh, Lord. And say that pop music
in there
is bullshit. But the good side of bullshit, boys. The good side of bullshit.
That's not where I thought you were going to land with that build-up. I'm going to go next.
Okay.
And I'm going to just echo Bo's verdict of bullshit. And I'll just say that, like, I'm a little bit, maybe it's clear from this show, a bit of an anti-establishment person. So probably when things are popular, I'm not going to like them almost as a matter of course, and that's not necessarily a good thing. I won't necessarily say that it's probably a bad thing. But also just acknowledging that a lot of music that I might like now might have been pop music at some time. I just wasn't alive during that time. That's the way music tends to work for me. And as my personal tastes move on, I tend to go backwards. Just recently, I'm getting into like blues, like Buddy Guy, Albert King. There's some awesome stuff that when you go back, and I'm going the other way. I always have a bone to pick with stuff that is too like it's just like it's I just feel like it's just so driven by an industry that it does annoy me. And that's not to say that good songs are not going to come out of it. They certainly will. Things are catchy that are coming out of pop music. They will have a place in history as time goes on. Absolutely, it's neither good nor bad. But I still think the whole like the machine of pop music, it's just complete bullshit. And music's so subjective. Like you're gonna like what you're gonna like. Maybe it's popular, maybe it's not. It doesn't really matter. Like what you like.
Just before Crofton, you say your verdict. I want to let our listeners know that Crofton actually shared a picture of Milli Vanilli with us in our chat, and they're actually pretty good looking guys.
You're very good looking.
All right, Crofton, go.
They can't sing though.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with it?
Girl,
Well,
you
know,
Silo, verdict silos. We're encroaching.
Girl, you know it's true. So okay. I'm a little bit on the fence with this one. I'll be honest. And you've heard both sides of the fence from me. I've talked about the superficiality. I've also talked about the merit. That I think the other thing is like if I think about what are my favorite songs, types of music, or my favorite songs over time, like Mike, it makes sense. I know what Mike's favorite songs and artists are and stuff like that. It makes sense to me that he, I've never really heard him harp on sort of like a pop artist as being someone that he really got behind. So it makes sense that he would be more sort of negative towards pop music. But for me, I would say that after rock and classic rock and that sort of thing, probably pop would be my next most listened to music. And like when you go to things like 80s nights or 90s nights, you know, and like you go to like an 80s night and it's like, you know, spin you right round, baby, right round, or all those songs, and you're like, oh, this is a good song or whatever. Those are all, or like Billie Jean from Michael Jackson, those are all like pop songs, right? And Mike is right that pop changes with time. And I kind of don't like pop right now, you know. But Bo's right; it is a lot of hip hop influence. I listened to the top list of hits on Spotify the other day. I was like, I don't like most of these songs. So it's tough for me because if we were talking about 90s pop or 80s pop, I would definitely be like good, and but talking about more modern pop, I'm like, oh no, that's crappy. And so in the end, like I think that I'm almost, by calling it bullshit, I'm almost being a little hypocritical, because maybe in the future I'll look back on the songs from now and be like, wow, those were awesome, and I didn't give them enough credit. But I think it's stuff like Milli Vanilli and the superficiality of pop and the transparent, like, creative bankruptcy of a lot of it that really pushes me towards the verdict I'm going to choose, which is to echo Mike and Bo and say that it's bullshit. But it's tough. It's tough because I want to say it's good, but in the end,
I feel bad about mine too, Crofton.
There's just enough corporate greed there. Like, I know Mike's always talking about it just makes money. It's just to make money, but he says that about everything. Like, so it doesn't really.
Things are driven by money.
It doesn't really mean anything anymore.
Oh, shots fired! I like it.
So for me, it was like, but the reality is, this is just that level of corporate greed and creative bankruptcy too far that even I have to say that it's bullshit. So I'm gonna say pop music is bullshit. No diggity.
I also realized, like, you mentioned the Spotify thing. Like, I had, I'll start to let you do the wrap up soon, Bo, but I just wanted to mention. So I have gone back and I was into songs for a while, since it got bought up by Google. But and I'd be like, oh, 90s. I think I like music from the 90s, and it'd be like 90s hits. And then I'd listen to it. I'm like, I don't like any of these songs, and I realized that the stuff I thought I liked from the 90s was just not pop music from the 90s. It was like whatever kind of rocky stuff was not quite the top 40. So yeah, I just think, you know,
he's always been a hipster, ladies.
Hipsters, just no, I've been behind 30 years and that gap's growing. That's all. Let's just say I was into Bon Jovi in high school.
Sorry guys, sorry.
People were into the Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana, and I was still into Bon Jovi.
I was into Roy Orbison.
Guys.
Well, see, that's cool. See, what you're doing there is that's cool. You know,
it wasn't cool in the 90s.
It was cool.
Oh my god!
No, it wasn't. There wasn't even hipster. Okay, I heard a letter come.
Yeah, a bird just dropped a letter in my hand.
If I ever stopped talking when Bo played a sound effect, I'd never get to talk.
All right, we barely play sound effects on the show, but it's time. I've got you guys are like cats. It's like, please go over here, cat, and then you don't go there. All right. So, as we teased at the beginning, we did also get a letter from one of our patron lords of Patreon, Leonard. And so we're going to read his message on the air, and we're probably going to argue about it too. So let's go. He says, hello, GBB host. Just want to let you know that
hi, Leonard.
English is not my native language, and the spell checker helps a lot, so he hopes he wrote it right. He's a 50-plus male from Sweden who found out about the GBB podcast when Bo was a guest on Current Geek, and he's been listening to it ever since. I don't know which time. I've been on 3 times. Humble brag.
Probably the first time.
Just wanted to let you know that there are people out there who listen to what you do and appreciate it a lot. Michael. It doesn't say Michael in the email.
My bubble's been popped. We have a listener.
I know that you say that you don't research the subjects you discuss, and that sometimes leads to fact errors.
Really?
Understatement of the year. But overall, I find your discussions and verdicts interesting, entertaining, and funny. However, sometimes you get things wrong, and so here comes a cavalcade of revisionist verdicts. You guys ready for this? All right. Manual transmissions. There's a blast from the past. He says they're bad.
Oh, sorry, Leonard.
Dinosaur
I
technology.
disagree.
Remember dinosaur technology?
Go
Didn't
on.
I say? Did I say they were bad or bullshit?
You
I
said they
think
were
he's
bad.
on Team Crofton here.
Yeah.
But obviously you both can't drive. Next.
All right, World of Warcraft, good. Yeah. And one of our favorite episodes, like the giant measle on our. Wait, that is a bad thing. Anyways, General Lighting, he says it's good. He's on Team Crofton. It's 2
Team
points for
Crofton.
Crofton.
Do you have no romance in your life, Leonard? Light a candle over dinner one time. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Golf, he says
Ignore
good.
him.
2 for Bo, 2 for Crofton. All
Wait,
right.
no, you didn't say. I thought we were all on Golf Sucks. Weren't we all on Golf
No,
Sucks?
remember the show image is me
No,
playing
Bo
golf.
liked it.
Oh, he did, eh?
I think I gave it
He
a
likes
good.
lame things.
On spanking, he said it was bad.
Yeah.
Did we all say that?
He's probably right.
Mike sort of made examples of when he would do it.
I was
and
playing
stuff.
devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Sure, you were.
Mike
Yeah.
was jumping on the grenade of conversation for us. Does that make sense? Circumcision, he says, is bad. And he says the United Nations are good. I think Crofton wins.
I am
Well-
a Scandinavian 50-year-old man.
Well, from Leonard's point of view, but I will have you know that I asked my dad asked the other day what our show was about, and I told him, and as an example, I used the United Nations, and he was like, "Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit." And I was like, "Yeah,
We need to have
If
your
you're-
dad on. That
You're
needs to
right.
happen.
if your point is, are you like your father? The answer is yes.
All right, let me finish reading the email, though. Can you hold the thought, or is it important? All right.
go."
Especially, he says, the spanking episode is an interesting example of how different countries' cultures can be. He thinks that Canada and Sweden do have a lot of similarities, much more than USA and Sweden anyways, but there are still things that differ. So in Sweden, they don't spank children. It's regarded as child abuse, and it's against the law. This is a good example to why I like to listen to your podcast. I often sometimes don't agree, but it is interesting to hear your reasoning. And Leonard, I want to say thank you, because that's the biggest concern we have doing the show is, will people like it when we say things that infuriate them? So I'm glad that you're sticking around. And if you're listening and you haven't written into us yet, we encourage you to do so we can also hear from you and know you're out there. It's good, positive feedback for us.
Yeah, please do, and thanks, Leonard, for your Leonard. And also, what I like is how much you owned your own revisions of our verdicts. Everyone is entitled to their own verdict, and I'm glad you just came out with yours, even if they were wrong half the time.
And I want to thank you, Leonard, for agreeing with me most of the time, which I think makes you a smart man. Also, thank you for being a patron. Also, please write in again. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, So, pop music. Off the top of your head, favorite pop music song, guilty pleasure you're listening to right now. Mike, go.
Wait, what about our email address and our website?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to give that out because the internet's doing
listen
something to
the
what
show.
you're saying there. I can't really make it out too clearly. Yeah, I forgot. Oops. If you want to be like Leonard and write into us, write to us at goodbadorbullshit@gmail.com. We'd love to read your messages on the air. We don't care what it is. Send it in. We'll read it and probably somewhat disagree with it. You can find more about the show at goodbadbull.com. There you can subscribe to on iTunes and now Google Play. Google has its own iTunes-like app store with podcasts, and we're on it. Effective today, basically. So get on that. Eventually, there'll be links on the site, but just go to Google Play and find it. We're there. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Links on our site, goodbadbull.com. Twitter at goodbadbull. And you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/goodbadbullshow. All right, I think that's going to wrap things up. You can find me at Bo Schwartz. You can find Crofton Steers. Crofton, where can our friends find you?
Well, Bo, they can find me in so many places, but they can find me on Twitter at Crofton Steers, and I do a show with Bo dedicated to video games called the Exclamation Mark. I would ask people to go to exmpodcast.com to learn more about that.
All right, that's a nice thing to ask people. And Michael, if our listeners want to find out more about what you're doing, what you're up to, where can they find you?
They can find me on the Twitter at ML Hodgins, where I make a monthly, if not bi-monthly, or quarterly tweet. So please follow those.
Sold. All right.
That's how you stay current on Twitter, right? At least quarterly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
They
how I
won't,
do.
they won't fill up your feed, so he's a
Yeah,
good person to follow, you know?
exactly.
Yeah,
You don't
that's
want
true.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually true. People that fill up your feed can be kind of irritating, so you mute them. All right. Yeah, that wraps up
Your
the show. So
question
the
then,
question
Bo.
then, off the top of your head, biggest pop music guilty pleasure or unguilty pleasure that you love right now?
Well, Bo, what's great about this is it's not off the top of my head because I've had about 15 minutes of wrap up to now think about this. So that's been helpful
I
for
know,
me.
I know.
But
Fail.
but I'll tell you, and I'm not shy to admit this. Justin Bieber,
Wow.
his most recent album, which was sort of like a reinvention. I'd never listened to Justin Bieber before, but some people at my work. It's funny too because we didn't talk about this, but really, in the era of Spotify, you don't have to listen to pop music anymore. Like so. I got convinced to listen to a couple of Bieber songs, and I actually quite like two of them. One is "Where Are You Now," which is with Skrillex,
All right.
and the other one is
Sing the
"What
hook.
Do You Mean?"
Sing the hook for us, Crofton.
No, I'm not going to do that,
All
Bo.
right. Well,
Oh.
since Crofton led
That
with
"What
the
Do You Mean" song? God, I hate that song.
Crofton led with
What
the
do you-
nuclear
that-
What do
option.
you mean? I can't stand it.
It's a good song.
It's hard.
horrible.
Do you mean?
I will admit it does get stuck in your head, but for me it gets stuck in my head like a sliver that you can't get out of your finger, which causes you pain
All right.
and discomfort, but is there. all the
What
time.
song are you rocking right now, Mike?
What
Okay,
do
I'll tell you
mean?
what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
It'll probably make you guys laugh because I am definitely not into pop music. So on YouTube, I found this awesome live concert from B.B. King and Friends from 1987 called "The
That's not-
Night of Blistering Blues," and it is awesome.
Eh.
It's B.B. King with all these people singing blues for
That's
like
not
an hour.
King's,
It's
BB King's not
music.
pop.
It's not.
He's
I said, what's
dead.
your
I
guilty
The
just-
question
pleasure?
was pop.
Your
I'm
guilty
just
pop
giving
pleasure.
you that as an example of how far away I am
You're
from
bad at this
listening
game.
to pop. That's what I'm listening to.
What
All
do
right.
you mean?
There is a Canadian pop singer that I've been listening to called Kiza, and it's the sound of a woman. And I like to walk down the street singing, "Maybe that's the sound of a woman." Yeah,
What do you mean?
and it's all like female power. So
The only thing that's
dig
good
it.
about that "What Do You Mean" song is that like background. Doop, 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 doop.
Yeah,
Got
that the whole way it's mixed is really good. You know, no diggity.
Pre-ba-ba-ba-da-bo. All right, let's
I
cut it
really
there.
dislike Drake though. God.
Fuck you, Drake. Mike hates you.
I might be too
It's also
strung out
that
on
he's-
compliments,
that he's
overdosed
arrogant.
on
It's like,
confidence.
I don't
He's not that. If by rap standards,
All right.
he is not near very arrogant.
Let
know.
bye
my rap
live stream. If you're
standards,
watching the
but I
VOD,
mean,
thanks for tuning in.
that doesn't
That's our
put you very
show.
high.
Like he's
care.
putting on an act. Honestly, he is a humble dude.